For today's video, I wanted to do something that was a bit of a challenge and also some pin formation. And so I wanted to share Disney pins from every single Disney park. And when I say every Disney park, I mean every Disney park. And in going through and showing these pins, I wanted to talk about all the differences that you'll see with Disney pins around the world. So all the Disney parks that I'm including and going to be going through in this video are Disneyland, Disney California Adventure, Magic Kingdom, EPCOT, Disney's Hollywood Studios, Disney's Animal Kingdom, Tokyo Disneyland, Tokyo DisneySea, Disneyland Paris, Walt Disney Studios Park, Hong Kong Disneyland, and Shanghai Disneyland. As well, I'm going to be throwing in a number of bonuses that aren't technically parks. First bonus is Disney's California Adventure. So this is DCA 1.0, which was a very different park than what it is today. I also have bonuses of Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach, since even though they are water parks, they still kind of count as theme parks, and if Universal Orlando can count Volcano Bay as a third gate, then Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach surely are other Disney gates too. And then the last bonus is going to be Disney Cruise Line. You can kind of think about that as a Disney park at sea. So I'd like to invite anybody else who would like to do this kind of challenge of Disney pins around the world, of either showing a pin from every single Disney park, or it's also kind of a fun thing to work toward in your own personal collection of knowing that you have a pin from all the Disney reaches around the world. So I'm going to start in Disneyland with some of those pins, and then we'll head around the world. So we're starting off with Disneyland because that is Walt Disney's original theme park. This pin here shows the iconic Walt and Mickey's partner statue in front of Sleeping Beauty Castle, which is the park icon of Disneyland. This one is an old open edition pin, but I think it perfectly encapsulates Disneyland. I then have a much newer Disneyland pin here. This one is almost uncharacteristic for the US parks because it's so shiny and glittery, but Disneyland will typically always have some sort of park icon or branded logo pin. There's of course exclusive Disneyland open edition pins like this Matterhorn bobsleds. When I think of Disneyland icons and exclusives, the Matterhorn is definitely what comes to mind first. And even for rides that Disneyland shares with Walt Disney World, they still will come out with some Disneyland exclusives. This one is a Splash Mountain piece of history pin with Brer Fox that moves up and down. And within this little bubble here is actually a piece of Brer Fox's clothing from the Disneyland version of the ride. The Disneyland Hidden Mickeys are shared between obviously Disneyland and Disney California Adventure, but I tend to like the Disneyland Hidden Mickeys that come out a little bit more than the Walt Disney World Hidden Mickeys, such as this churro pin, which is amazing because the Disneyland churros are pretty much the greatest ones ever. Hopping across the Esplanade to Disney California Adventure, this is Mickey in front of Carthay Circle, and Carthay Circle is generally the park icon for DCA. Sometimes it rotates with the Fun Wheel, but apparently they're renaming the Fun Wheel the Pixar Pal Around, which I think is probably the worst name for a ride I've ever heard, but that's a whole other story. The other noteworthy thing about this pin is an annual pass holder exclusive, and Disneyland has a lot more annual pass holder exclusives than Walt Disney World because Disneyland really is just overrun with APs and they kind of control and run the park, and many of them take their pins very seriously over there. There are some other great DCA exclusives like this Buena Vista Street pin, which is the Main Street USA equivalent, again with Carthay Circle in the background. And then DCA also has its spectacular nighttime show, World of Color, which if you can tell from my channel artwork, I am absolutely in love with. For the bonus, we're doing a blast to the past of Disney's California Adventure. I have a whole video about the old DCA, how it really was a fully different park. So this pin features Superstar Limo, which was the shortest lived attraction at DCA and generally thought to be Disney's worst ride. I actually gave away one of these pins in my 2,000 subscriber giveaway, and I liked it so much that I went and found one for myself on eBay, just because I think it's a super unique, cool pin to have. The old DCA really emphasized California history in a lot of their pins, so this was from a specific California history series which focused on the gold rush. The park also had a lot of very punny eateries, my favorite of which was called Sam Andreas Shakes. We're now bopping over to Florida and Walt Disney World and starting with the Magic Kingdom. So you'll probably notice that this pin is very, very similar to the first Disneyland pin I showed. This is the Walt and Mickey partner statue, but in front of Cinderella's castle. This is one of my old original pins that I got on my 2003 trip, and I think castle icon pins are absolutely perfect. There's also more fun castle pins like this, which I love. It's like a mashup between the Up House and all the Disney balloons and then Cinderella's castle. You of course will have your attraction pins. This one I think I got back in 2008, 2009, and so although Space Mountain is shared between Disney World and Disneyland, this one, as you can see, specifically has Magic Kingdom on it with Walt Disney World. And Magic Kingdom, of course, has their own exclusive attraction pins for their rides, such as Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, a ride I definitely love to ride one day. And I'll include this with the Magic Kingdom, a hidden Mickey pin, which are found in all the parks throughout Walt Disney World. Like I said, I tend to like them a little bit less than the ones that come out at Disneyland, but I absolutely love this series of macaron hidden Mickeys that was at Walt Disney World. Now we're heading over to EPCOT, and I feel like EPCOT, especially lately, has a lot of extinct attractions where they're kind of fighting between their retro original 80s vibe and trying to revamp things to become new. So this pin was part of EPCOT's 35th anniversary line, and it commemorates Universe of Energy, which is now closed. There's then your new EPCOT attractions like Frozen Ever After, and I think the pin for this is so beautiful. Definitely another ride I would love to ride. And pins at EPCOT that you'll quite frequently see are festival pins. They'll typically always have special event pins out for Flower and Garden, and then also Food and Wine. And now there's also Festival of the Arts, which also has pins. Moving over onto Hollywood Studios, which is kind of one of the saddest parks now with so much construction. But soon they're gonna have a whole bunch of new lands and probably a whole bunch of new pins. But I have here, this is my old original Tower of Terror pin. Definitely the best Hollywood Studios attraction. And then I also love Indiana Jones. This one is a piece of history pin for the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular. I feel like this has been at the park for forever. We then have pins from Animal Kingdom. My favorite attraction in the park is Expedition Everest. Granted, I've not yet been to Pandora, but I love this pin because it has the park name on it and it's year established. I'm a sucker for neat attraction pins. And how I mentioned Pandora, Pandora is the new great thing at Animal Kingdom. This one is the opening day pin from Pandora, which opens up and you can see the bioluminescent forest. It seems like it's taken a while for Animal Kingdom to kind of come into its own, but I think Pandora has now really made that a must-do park. Here's where I'm gonna throw in the rest of my bonus pins. This one is a Typhoon Lagoon pin, and then I have a Blizzard Beach pin. I think Typhoon Lagoon has maybe better rides than Blizzard Beach, but I just love the theming of Blizzard Beach so much. And then final bonus is Disney Cruise Line pin. This was the pin that I got when we took our one and only Disney cruise back in 2006. All right, so now is when we move to the international parks, and I'm gonna start with Tokyo Disneyland. So if you don't know, Tokyo Disneyland does not have pin trading. I think they may have had it for a year or two at the start of the millennium, but at least from rumors that I read, it just got too crazy that they had to end it. So you can find some pins in Tokyo, but they don't have that many. But some pins that they typically do have are for attractions. These pins are both old, and I'm pretty sure they're retired, but they're for Haunted Mansion and Splash Mountain. You can see on the back here, they don't have the normal type of pin trading logo. They have a little pin collecting logo and then Tokyo Disney Resort on the back. So in addition to the attraction pins, Tokyo will generally also have events related pins. So this was from their Disney Sweet Love. This was back in 2011. Super pretty pin. This also seemed to be part of a set that came with it. It's this adorable little Minnie and Mickey macaron. And I know they come out with a different Sweet Love design every year. As of late, they've also been having their yearly Anna and Elsa Frozen Fantasy pins. And the look of this pin, I'd say, is pretty standard for how the Tokyo event pins look. Got a smooth epoxy coating on it, pretty nice quality. And so again, with the pins that you'll see at Tokyo, they have some other non-attraction or non-event pins, but mainly you're going to see pins that are geared to things going on in the park. We're now hopping over to Tokyo DisneySea, and the pins that you'll find at Tokyo DisneySea are the game prize pins from the Arabian coast. So those are like your standard boardwalk style games, and the pins are actually given as consolation prizes. So you get a pin for losing. The pins are typically in the same style where they have a nice clear epoxy like finish to it. They often have this kind of distinct sort of cuties-esque characters, and if you've seen the back of any of these notably state not for sale on them. And that not for sale is there because these are the game price pins and you can't purchase them. You have to get them through playing the game. They'll typically change out the pins offered there seasonally, so they'll typically be themed to whatever season or event that's going on. In this case, these two are from Tokyo DisneySea's 5th anniversary. We're now heading on over to Disneyland Paris, and some of the pins that you'll see most frequently from Disneyland Paris are their pin trading night pins. Paris seems to have a pin trading night event just about once a month, and they'll come out with a set of 3 pins, which will be themed to a different movie with characters in the center. They all have pretty much the same design on them, and what's nice about these Paris limited edition pins is that they have a specific edition size number on them. So you'll know exactly what number your pin is out of the edition size. Disneyland Paris, of course, has some cute, more Parisian-esque styled pins. On the Paris pin flyers that come out monthly, they also include the new open edition pins that are being released. And some of the open edition pins in Paris are so cute and unique. This is a somewhat recent release, and it's definitely one of my favorites that have come from Paris. In the parks, Disneyland Paris does have pin trading, and the pins that they'll come out with are not hidden Mickeys, but rather on the back, they'll say something like Refresh Lanyard. So they're typically either called Refresh pins or sometimes Cast Lanyard pins. I don't know too much about what the trading scene at Paris is like, but I have heard in some places they are a little bit stricter about trading. We then have Walt Disney Studios Park in Paris. This seems to be kind of one of the most forgotten parks, but of course they have some cool attraction pins. They have the Tower of Terror there, and this Tower of Terror might look familiar because it is an exact replica of the tower that was at DCA. So if you're really missing that version, you can still find it in Paris. And I've got one other cool Tower of Terror pin from that Paris park. This one is a limited edition pin. The limited edition pins that come out in Paris typically are much smaller edition sizes than in the US parks, so they're a little bit more difficult to get a hold of, but they typically always have really nice designs. Next, we're moving on to Hong Kong Disneyland, and Hong Kong Disneyland releases my favorite pins out of any Disney park. This Utopia pin here is really a hallmark of what Hong Kong Disneyland pins are like. You can see there's tons of sparkly glitter on it. The enamel is so super shiny. It's just beautiful. So almost always the pins that are Hong Kong exclusives are just so much nicer than any of the pins that you'll find anywhere else. And really, if a pin can have glitter on it, that just makes it a whole lot better. In Hong Kong, you'll also find some more exclusive pins. This one is a slightly older open edition pin, and it's Mickey, Goofy, and Donald eating from a hot pot. So you can find a fusion of Disney with the local cultures. The mystery pins from Hong Kong Disneyland are also the greatest. They are so much larger and nicer than you'll find anywhere else. And sometimes the mystery pins come in boxes, but pins like these often come in cute little mystery tins. And finally, like in Tokyo, Hong Kong has also been coming out with some game prize pins. Their most recent series have included characters dressed up as little fruits and vegetables. This one, it has a cutie Judy Hopps, and she is so adorable. Now, the other thing that you'll often see on Hong Kong Disneyland pins, which I don't have any of, there's lots of ones featuring Duffy and friends. So Duffy, Shelly May, Gelatoni, and Stella Lou. I don't have any Duffy and friends pins because honestly, I don't care about them at all. They just feel like replacement Minnie and Mickey's to me. I mean, I think there's a reason why Duffy just did not catch on in the US. It seems like just about on all of the seasonal pins at Hong Kong Disneyland now are Duffy and friends. And I mean, sure, I guess some of them are cute, but like I said, I just don't have any sort of attachment to them or really care about them. I would much rather prefer just having a cute Minnie and Mickey on my pins. Finally, we have the newest Disney park, and that is Shanghai Disneyland. So a good portion of pins from Shanghai Disneyland are all related to their grand opening. This is my favorite grand opening pin. It has Minnie and Mickey in their finest, and then it also has some spinning fireworks in the back. So they'll have a bunch of grand opening pins. They've also released their series of first-year anniversary pins. Like I showed with the Hong Kong pin, you can also find fusions between Disney and the local culture. So these are a Minnie and Mickey pair that are for the Mid-Autumn Festival. Really pretty pins with some stained glass, and also a cute little hidden Mickey cloud. And then Shanghai also does have hidden Mickeys, but they are much harder to get, obviously, than they are here in the US. My favorite set is this Zootopia Hidden Mickeys, and the Zootopia set is kind of in this cutie style, and you'll notice a lot of Shanghai exclusive pins also have characters that are in a cutie style. I think it's a lot of Jared Maruyama artwork, but they have some really cute sets of hidden Mickey pins. As well, like with Hong Kong, all of Duffy and Friends have now been introduced to Shanghai Disneyland, so they've been coming out with quite a few Duffy and Friends pins there. Oddly to note, Duffy and Friends originated at Tokyo DisneySea, which is kind of the mecca of all Duffy merchandise. But in terms of what I've seen, I don't really see Tokyo pins with Duffy and Friends on them, but you'll find oodles and oodles of Duffy pins from Hong Kong and Shanghai. So this now officially has been at least one Disney pin for every single Disney park. I hope you kind of enjoyed this little look at Disney pins around the world to see how unique each park's pins can be. And I'd like to invite anybody who is up to it to kind of take this Disney pins around the world challenge of either sharing or working toward collecting a Disney pin from every single Disney park. I'd be really interested to know which park your favorite Disney pins come from. For me, it probably has to be Hong Kong Disneyland, but there really are such cool pins from all around the world. But thanks for watching!